everybody. Welcome back to this episode of From the Suggestion Box, navigating feedback, the good, the bad, and the say what? Today, my guest is Coleen LaCosta, and she is a dear, dear friend who I had the privilege of meeting at a training for volunteer managers for the Volunteer Generation Fund. And if you are in Florida, apply for it like today. It is a phenomenal grant. And it really helped me to network with amazing people like Coleen. I am so grateful to them for that. And it has just been, it's literally changed my volunteer manager professional life. So anyway, it's not about me. This is about Coleen. She began her career in victim advocacy 25 years ago while working for the state attorney's office. That experience put her on the path of transition where she began seeking justice for child victims. A fire was ignited underneath her, and that flame morphed into a lifetime of determined, vocal advocacy for our most vulnerable. In all that she does, Coleen aims to break the cycle of abuse and neglect in our community. As the executive director for Speak Up for Kids of Palm Beach County, she works diligently to support local guardian ad litem child advocacy volunteers in the quest to herald the child's best interest. Embracing Ralph Waldo Emerson's quote, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." I love that. She takes on each day with devotion and intensity, leading by example and lighting the path for others who passionately defend the defenseless. Ultimately, her heart's desire is to improve the life of each young victim of maltreatment, see pain replaced by kindness, sadness overcome by happiness, and silence eradicated by voices united to speak up. Coleen, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Look at you. Your enthusiasm is always contagious.
Well, I thrive off of amazing people, and you are literally one of those. So let me ask you this before we dive into the whole feedback part. Tell us a little bit about your journey into managing volunteers. Like, how did you come into managing volunteers and working with volunteers?
Okay, well, you heard a little bit about my history. So, I think volunteer management goes hand in hand with nonprofit leadership roles.
Absolutely.
And I've worked in the industry for over 2 decades, which is just crazy how fast that went by. But I've had various roles, and without exception, I've had the privilege of working with people whose passion is not fueled by pay. They're fueled by, what their interest is. And it's amazing. They want to do good. So,
right.
And we live and die by being able to fully execute their mission. And typically that mission cannot be realized without dedicated volunteers, So, and with budgets and everything else, it's just keeping that passion and mission. So it's just a natural extension of what we do.
Absolutely. I heard somebody say that we are in it for no, let me put it this way. I heard somebody say we are not in it for the income. We're in it for the outcome.
Exactly.
So you've been in nonprofit leadership, you're doing your thing. So I am sure people have always had to have some type of feedback for you. So now let's dive in. Let's talk about, I love any of it, the good, the bad. I love to say what's, because those are the ones that you're just like, oh my gosh, those are the ones that make you have to learn how to not throw the baby out with the bathwater, the stuff that just shocks you. But they're usually the ones that give you the most growth. But I'm biased to those. You don't have to give me a say what type of situation. We're talking about all of it, right? I know, like, one of my first say what moments was reading survey results that volunteers had filled out. But this is really just to help people learn and grow from it. So talk to us. Tell us a little bit about something you got for us.
All right. Well, I do have a say what, but I'll wait because I'll get to that one in a minute. But so it's really simple. One of the best pieces of feedback I really get is that simple thank you. You know, and especially when it's from the kids whose life been, touched some way by the abuse or neglect, and they just appreciate the littlest things. That impact might seem so minuscule to me, but the heartfelt thanks, it just goes deep. So that simple thank you is my favorite bit of feedback. Don't do it for the thanks, but when it comes, it's like, what?
Yeah.
It just goes right to the heart.
Yeah.
So that keeps that passion going. So I really believe that's like the best feedback is always that nice comment. Now, along the way, there's been plenty, from the beneficial to the worst piece of feedback is to say what? You want to say what?
Oh, let's say what? Yes.
This sticks out of my mind. So this is easy to come up with a say what. So I was working as a waitress. I was 9 months pregnant. Okay. So
okay.
Here. And I was really doing my best to cater to all the tables and needs. I thought I was doing a really good job too. So one couple left, and on the receipt they wrote, lose some weight as the tip. I was like, so I'm like, I was, but horrific feedback. But the beauty of that reminds we see things from only, our perspective. And sometimes that perspective is not based in facts. So I'm thinking maybe if they knew I was pregnant, I wouldn't have got that tip, but they did leave some cash. But still, I was like, what? And I've told everybody for all the years, all 20 years of that feedback. Because it really does make me laugh. But I was like, what the heck?
Yeah. Well, no, but I love though what you just said. That was such a teachable moment of helping you to put yourself in the position of it's not always what you see, and basing and giving information based off of fact as opposed to assumption. That is huge, especially for everything that we're doing, especially what we're doing in nonprofit, and it's because a lot of us serve communities, and that is such a good thing to keep in mind when we are serving whoever that is. It's one of the things that when at the theater, it's something that we talk about all the time, because we have guests that come in and people make this assumption that because we're at a theater that everybody has money and they're coming in and they're expected to look a certain way. And then we see people who walk in through the theater and it's just like, And the stories that we have received because our volunteers were so gracious, coming to find out all the backstories between something that just didn't look like it was supposed to, like it just didn't look the part. Man, that's huge. That's huge what you just said. It's small but huge at the same time. Yeah.
And unforgettable.
Yeah, and unforgettable. So let me ask you this. Being in the different roles that you have had, what has been the worst piece of feedback that you've given or maybe delivered in the worst way, and what did you learn from it?
So exactly. Well, it kind of is, because I was like, I was busy thinking of things that you could be asking, and I was asking my son, I said, what's the worst piece of feedback I ever gave, or worst advice I ever gave you? And he said, well, everything.
Leave it to the kids. Leave it to the kids.
Oh, sorry for the dog.
It's okay. It's okay.
But I don't get too much on the worst feedback, but I did do something though. I gave some bad, but it was inadvertent feedback. When I was I misinterpreted somebody's communications and actions for a lack of interest in what they were doing. And in order to be more efficient with time, I was like, well, let me take that away and, you can work on this. Well, come to find out later in communicating, it really broke that person's heart that I took that away. And, and we learned and we were able to fully communicate everything and have an understanding about that. But I just assumed, so with my assuming so that was not good.
So how did you come to that conclusion? Like, was the person like acting differently and then you asked them about it? Like, how did you get to find that out?
Well, it took a little while to find that out, but I found out in a Zoom call when she actually mentioned it to somebody else. Well, careful, she'll just take it away from you. And I was like, I think I might have to work on that. And we had a conversation. So I knew that it didn't go over very well.
Yikes. And that's just, oh my gosh, this is just so good because it's so true. And that is why we have to be so aware of what we are doing and why we are doing it. And it's something that I talk about a lot, just being how we treat our volunteers speaks volumes, and communicating with them is so important because so many times, especially if they are unhappy, the beauty about volunteering is that they can vote with their feet, and if they don't like it, they can just leave and never say anything to you.
Right.
And you will never ever know or find out. So the fact that, at least, good thing she didn't walk away. I mean, she got it out there, at least, maybe not the best way, but at least she, at least she said something. And what I really liked is the fact that instead of you taking it as like, I can't believe, it was more of a wake up call for you. It was more of a, hey, something's not right, as opposed to like getting on her for how she went about it. Getting past that part and getting to the root of, wait a minute, something's not right. Maybe we should have a conversation.
Right.
So how'd you go about it? You picked up the phone, you called her, like, how'd that go?
I did. I called her and I'm like, I didn't, and I just started off. I'm like, I never realized that. So, and then she was able to say what she thought, and she was laughing about it. I think she felt better by getting it out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really did work out well. So we just talked about it. And that's the key too. That communication is the key. And that's with every aspect of life. That's where all the breakdowns begin, a communication and understanding, not assumptions.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that plays a huge role in what you do with the kids. So the question that I have is, when you're working with the volunteers, who not only just with the volunteers, but working with the kids, because that's going to be a harder way to get feedback from them. I'm making the assumption, to be able to better serve them. So what different ways or tactics or things of communication do you use, especially to communicate with younger kids, to get what you need to be able to serve them better?
The best thing with working with the younger kids is kind of getting on their level. Now, teens are a little harder to break through. You just kind of, a lot of times that comes with Starbucks, right? Exactly. Starbucks, or the right song at the right time. And, that,
Yeah.
So something that breaks through. Little kids are really so like, they'll just, and girls do it more. Girls just chatter and tell you exactly what's up. But you know what? This is slightly personal, but I get the big head with this one. When I play with little kids, I always like to say, because typically are having a good time. I can create a game in a second,
Right.
Out of whatever we're doing. And so I'll say, so how old do you think I am? And I love what they come up with. Because if you play with a little kid, that number's low. If you're you're just over there just being like, they're like, but just getting on, just being with them, and you can communicate very well through the, I guess that's why play therapy is so successful.
Yeah, for sure. So
that's how you draw them out. Now they're a little harder to keep on task when we use them as volunteers, and sometimes it seems a little more like babysitting. So you got to have a little more patience. But Overall, they're really learning it young. It gets ingrained. That giving, I think it's in the blood.
Okay, so when you say when you're using them as volunteers, like the teens, you mean?
Well, I'll even use young, yeah. So the tweens and up. So we don't babysit the kids. So a parent has to be with the younger kids, if they're there, but the teens will come. And as long as they don't cluster together, you get a lot out of them. But when they cluster together, it's a little hard to break that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we use the teens as well. And we have a lot of single day events. So they help a lot with the holidays, or when, times right now are a little different, but the single day events, they're really good at attending, and they want that community service. So much so, I didn't tell you this. We started a program called Students Speak Up for Kids. I don't know if you noticed it, but that has been, talk about fueling passion. It is so cool. So cool. So we formalized all those kids that want community service hours and created that program and give them all sorts of ideas on what they can do. And we kind of guide them into projects, and what they've come up with is so incredible.
Yeah, for sure. They're kids. Well, kids to us. And they are full of so many new and different things that, they're like, sometimes I sit and I listen to my daughter, and I'm just like, wow, like that just would have never have even crossed my mind. And then I'm like, I'm really getting old.
Like,
goodness gracious.
The lingo is tricky sometimes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what any of this means.
Yeah, exactly. Can you translate that for me, please? So I'm fascinated. So does the organization, do you all do any type of like surveying of your volunteers or surveying of the teens to get
Editing. Thank you.
That was so funny. Okay. Do you all do anything to where you are I forgot my question. What was it? Oh yeah. Okay. Do you guys do any type of surveying of like the teens to get feedback on how their experience has been, or what can be done better, or getting new ideas? And does it differ from your older volunteers?
Totally. Absolutely and totally. So the kid, let me start with the kids. So the kids do a pre and post survey with their project when they do it, when they follow the flow of how we have it set up, they can, whatever. But when they do that, they enter some basic information in their project ideas, and they talk about how much they know about foster care, and we see what they've learned. And then at the post survey, they tell us, how many people were impacted, what the impact was, what they learned, as well as the same questions to see if they've grown with the program and do that. But the projects that go in there, the ideas that they have, I mean, it is incredible. The feedback, we got a little more feedback, was based, a whole lot of it was on the web navigation. So we fixed what they said, but not too much on the program itself. Like, nobody said, I didn't know what I was doing. We guide them. There's people, there's volunteers who volunteer to help those kids through the whole thing if they need a point of contact. So that part's been good. So it's more on the website navigation. But that's really good. Now interestingly enough, a lot of the older volunteers are more they don't like some of the paperwork, like it's a little too much paper, because it's legal aspects. So they do have to turn in reports and stuff, and they track their time, and we use that information. But the other thing is, when they do, they don't like to waste their time in the court part if they're not going to be used. And I totally understand that. Totally. Yeah. I'm hoping with Zoom that some of these people will be allowed to testify from where they're at, and that will alleviate that. So that's my fingers are crossed on that. But it's more on that level, like that time but they love the aspects of being with the kid and advocating for their best interest.
Okay. Awesome. I love that. And I love that you're getting like literally the whole spectrum from left to right of all those different things, because that's just what makes us grow. That's just what makes us grow. So let me ask you this. From a supervisor's standpoint, have you ever received some type of feedback, either like on a performance evaluation or something that really was either like really spectacular and you loved how they did it, or it was just like soul crushing, but you grew like exponentially from it?
Yikes. That's yikes. That is that. I've got to think about that one. So, so, oh, on an evaluation, none of my evaluations stand out in my head right now. So I don't think that I ever got one that I was like, yay, look at that. Look, they understand me. They get it. But I'm sure that I was put out, oh, you know what? This is not, well, it is, and I think a lot of people think like this. You know how you're a little bit late sometimes, sometimes a little
You mean
late.
like to work, you mean?
Yeah, a little bit late. So, but you stay late. You're staying late, or you're on the phone
Right.
after hours or whatever. Well, that for some reason the latter part didn't ever get noticed as much as that 7 minutes in the beginning or whatever. So,
yes.
So that I was always like, I don't understand that. I do get that you should be on time. And probably if I stopped getting espresso at a drive-thru, I would be on time, but I can't seem to gauge that timing so perfectly. So anyway, that which was mentioned to me too. Maybe if you didn't come in with a cup all the time. Or you come in with wet hair, it's like
oh, that's hilarious.
Wet hair, pretending that you've been there for hours. Oh yeah, then why is your hair wet? No, but that. So that's the they don't realize the other parts of that. So that was always a little bit like, I don't get that emphasis, but that's my own problem. That's something that I just got better at. But I'm awfully understanding about it for other people. I'm like, don't kill yourself. It'll all wash out in the long run. Just be careful.
Right. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. That is hilarious. Okay. So what is the most beneficial piece of feedback that you have ever received, either professionally or personally?
We didn't talk about that one, and I was actually thinking about this and I didn't know exactly if it would fit in somewhere in your questions, but this is perfect for it. So mine was a personal spiritual challenge in that it deepened my relationship with God beyond what I thought was spiritually meant when I was growing up.
Wow.
And as that connection deepened, everything in my life was personally and professionally came into focus. And I was kind of able to clear out chaos and be grateful for even the smallest things. And it was a rewarding challenge that led to me to grow and transform my thinking in a way that, so that probably was one of the transforming moments personally and professionally. And it was the actualization of many people's, not people saying, but different things that around people that would say things and it would resonate, and it's a collection of it. And you kind of want what that is, and then I want to ask questions on that, but it made me think of another one that I liked that somebody else gave me, and it was another personal one. And it was personal and professional too. So this was, I ended up, I'd just been diagnosed with stomach cancer. So I was worried about the diagnosis and the next steps, of course, and had to do what needed to be done. But I was keenly aware of the amount of work that I had and on my plate. So I was trying to figure out how to delegate it and contingency plans and to ensure no one fell through the cracks and all that. And a dear coworker and friend, so wise. She's so wise. She just approached me and said the simplest thing. She said, the work will be here when you come back. So when you think about that, I never really thought about it in the perspective, but it reminded me in some that it gave me permission to take care of what I needed to take care of, focus on myself and my health and well, but it also reinforced the comment of hope that it'll be there when you get back. So that was, it was so simple and so necessary at the time. Yeah.
So simple yet so profound at the same time. And because I've heard that, and I have resonated with the first part that you said, like, that self-care, because it's huge. Yes, you absolutely, because it is going to be there, because you could work 16 hours straight and it will still be there when you go back the next day. But I had never heard that, like, almost looking at it as in the form of hope, like it will be there when you get back. Don't worry, like as a way to encourage you to stop to take care of yourself, because you're going to have it to go back to. Like,
right.
wow. That's wow. I like that. Very, very different. I've never heard that before. I really like that.
Oh, thank you,
Coleen.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on. Let me see. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. We talked about that. I think we basically got through everything. Okay. So I have 3 more questions.
Okay.
So throughout your career, you clearly have managed many people. But have you managed like a team of people, and whether it be like paid employees, whether it be volunteers, whether it be interns, and you had to have difficult conversations with any of them, maybe because individually or as team members, they didn't work well together. How did you, if you have had to do that, how did you deliver that feedback and help to work through it?
That's a good question. And yes, that happens. I think that just is a natural occurrence periodically when you, especially if you bring a new dynamic into a group or whatever. So the team kind of gets a little bit, there was the most recent one was the team. There was one person that had a lot of experience and somebody that was newer, and there wasn't the respect for the knowledge, and the historic knowledge wasn't there, as well as the respect for the knowledge gained from new ideas wasn't there. So that went just, they had butted pretty bad. So that was that we really spent a lot of time on that. And quite frankly, we're still working on that, because every now and then it comes back up again. Like if there's not, it's a very they have not gotten over the sensitivity to that, because if there's not a thank you at the right moment, it's a hurt feeling. And see that, I know that about try to keep it out of the personal realm and that feeling, and that's where sometimes it goes back to, but just kind of bring it back together and remind to say thank, and all of it. So it can be tense.
I can imagine. Have the two of them ever, in this particular instance, sat down in the same room and kind of like talked it out, or for the lack of better words, like give feedback to each other about why they're feeling the way they are?
No, it did that. Well, I said no too fast, because actually when they were doing that, kind of modified, because they didn't really want to talk to each other alone. The one said some things that was making the other, I don't know if it was nervous laugh or whatever, but she was laughing, and that just did not go over well at all.
Yeah.
So it kind of needs like that moderating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to constantly keep opening up that door on that. But I think that they're both growing, and that, you know, there's actually new members of that team that have different thinking that can help bridge that together.
Yes.
And we put some simple tools in so that some of that lack of communication or miscommunication doesn't happen. But it is a constant reminder that you have to kind of nurture that type of thing carefully, and you have to have patience for that. I mean, both of them have to have the patience. And
Yeah. Everybody involved has to,
yeah.
because it's not just the two of them, but it's the people who they're working with at the time, and like the whole gamut. Okay, so let me ask you this. Speak Up for Kids. Is this like your organization? Did you create this, or was it okay? Or is this like, and have you created your own in the past? Because I know you've done so much advocacy work. Like, help me, like, have you ever like started and run your own, and then you're working with this, or you're doing it on the side? Or I'm just trying to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a few parts of that. So Speak Up for Kids was founded in 2008. So I was around when it founded, and with another agency, and just have followed that. And we've always been good partners with stuff, but it was a volunteer board. So when I came on, I built the foundation for bringing in employees. Now we've got 26 employees, and this is in 3 years. So 26
Wow.
employees. Exactly. And a whole lot of growth, a couple new programs, and a lot of neat stuff. So I'm really kind of happy with the way it's going and the vision. And all those people that are the people that I was talking about, and the other people, we bring in all those ideas, different minds. I like different minds. I don't need a bunch of people that think like me. I already think like myself, you know?
Right.
I
right.
like that. I like feedback, and hearing all the different ideas, and how we can approach it different, because you reach other people by that. And then that passion is fueled, and you utilize the best. Just time is the only limit to all that.
Yeah.
Now, I asked about, did I, together with the girl that I knew from Speak Up back then in the agency, and we started this thing called Palm Beach County Unites for Children. And what that did was bring everybody, because everybody's doing the same thing. We're all doing the same thing. We're reaching out to the same people. We're doing that, let's just join together. And, like at that parenting event, let's just have representative rotate the time from each of the 8 and represent the whole, as opposed to competing against each other constantly. So we did stuff like that. And we did a lot for the awareness month. But that because of turnover and different things, that needs some nurturing right at this particular minute, because we don't have somebody that can lead it while we're both so busy.
Right.
So that was a good way to look at things, though.
Okay. So you touched on something that like struck a nerve. I know I said I only had like 3 more questions, but you said volunteer board.
Yes.
How was that?
So they were incredible, though. I mean, they at different times they tried different things. So the function was to support the guardian ad litem program. So they came in and they had to fundraise to make up that difference. And the founder, Ken Thomas, is amazing. So he did all sorts of things and brought in some money. Then then when that change happens, that different tiers of motivation. And the next person was very visionary, but the money stayed a little bit lower. They had enough to do what they needed to do at the time, but with the growing support needed because of all the kids, something had to change. So that's where they started looking beyond. But at many times they tried different things. They had a grant committee that was really good for a while. And they, at one point they tried to hire a grant writing company that I think gave them a lot of the tools that they needed. So they tried a lot of things, but they really did it all themselves. At different times they had a point person in there. They tried an event coordinator. That did not go very well. She was only part-time. So you know how hard that is to do part-time.
Yeah.
So with all the different efforts, they had different parts of success, but knew that they had to do something where they got a executive director, and that's where I came in.
Got it. Okay. So when you stepped in, was there any like hesitation or tension, or was everybody welcoming, or was everybody trying to tell you or give you feedback on, well, this is how it's always been done?
Well, I thrive on that. Let me go. Let me just go. And I could not. They are so perfect for me. They are so perfect for me. So I just tell them what's up. And sometimes it seems like they might, like maybe it doesn't all sink in because there's so many things up. But I don't know that everybody realizes it. And certainly nobody wants to read those long reports I provide them. But to try to get that synopsis, of what's going on.
Feedback. Make sure the reports are shorter.
So I try I try all these different versions, but you still look at it and you're like, who wants to read that? Let's just see how much money's there and when's the next event, but they are so perfect for me. They're so good to me. They're so supportive, and they're like, what tools do you need? And so we've been evolving too. The focus is is laser focused. I'm supposed to watch my mission creep. I can tend to get a little grand with the ideas, but the director of the Guardian side of the program, we are so in sync that we got just great. I mean, it's fun. It's exciting. You can just go and do, and they're a great board, but they did all that themselves before I came in and did the foundation part.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah, because a lot of people tend to forget that board members are volunteers, and they play such huge roles. And has there ever been like what is like just like a phenomenal or just like organization changing idea that came from a board member? Was there anything like that?
Oh, they're so full of strategy. So Ken had it and took off and got the name out there and did some great events that was he knew he walked the walk, so he knew the whole thing. He just was perfect. The next president was she's very strategic. So she had all these, and she would listen to the input. She also was a gal. So there's just hours of volunteering. If you're hearing that, there's just hours she's putting into this stuff. So she had the vision of one of our initiatives, which is supporting therapeutic court, a model court for kids, the hardest of kids, crossover with delinquency and dependency. So they've been, they're in a group home, and they probably changed homes a lot, had a lot of different issues, hardest kids to get permanency for. And this whole initiative brought everybody together from the team and empowered the child. So the child had to say, it'd be perfect if we could do this for everybody, but it's quite a time-consuming courtroom. The outcomes from this courtroom are incredible. The permanency that comes, the connections made, it is amazing. So she had the vision for that. And then the present president has, she's an incredible person with a lot of communication, and she too is an author, and she comes up with really fun ideas. So we're doing a big party called Big Kids for Kids. Well, that was the original name, but it's the Gift of Birthday program. So it's Palm Beach County's biggest birthday. So that was her little baby. She trademarked that, and it's gonna come together in April. We've got a team of people, a bunch of volunteers working on that with us, and it's really pretty cool.
That is awesome.
They all brought different pieces.
Yeah. And it makes your organization stronger because of it. About how many volunteers does your organization have? Oh, and by the way, before you answer that, it was funny because you said that the current president, you're like, she's a gal, but you don't mean like a female. You mean a guardian.
Yes. She's a guard. The previous one, yeah. So this president right now is not the gal though. She actually said that she felt she could do what she's doing because she doesn't have the emotional capability of going out to the homes and seeing the kids. So she wanted to just communicate the message, and she's phenomenal with that. I try to get her to record her all the time, and I break it up and I do all sorts of. I'm like, darn it, but. Yeah. But I try to. She's got phenomenal. I mean, I love listening to her. She's got great quotes, and she's just really. She's a great cheerleader too.
Yay, cheerleaders! I love those. Yeah. Okay, now I forgot what the other question was. What did I just ask you?
The volunteers, about how many volunteers we
Yeah.
have.
Thank
So
you.
we have a lot. So there's over 700 volunteer child advocates. Those are the gals, the guardian ad litems. And we're not, thank you for saying that, because I'm not even supposed to be saying gals. I'm supposed to say that whole thing out.
Yeah, well, because it's funny, because it's like, okay,
So there's over 700 of the volunteer guardian ad litems, and then there is we're probably up to about 250 other volunteers now, used in pieces, but like some we know that are just for the events. Some are I got a little army that comes in with me. Like, I'm only going in the office one day a week right now,
Yeah.
and I have a little army that comes in on Tuesdays with me. So they all come in. A lot of them that can come in, and we maintain all the rules and all that. So they come in, but there's a whole little routine. There's some that do mailings, there's some that do this, there's some that do the library, and that we have a 40-hour a week. Really, she's like 80 volunteer, and she's just amazing.
Yes. Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she comes in too, and she's always doing so. She actually leads a whole team of volunteers herself too. She takes mine. So if I have them, and I'm like, she's my boss, man. I give you whatever she wants.
I love that. I love that. So do you all have somebody who's specifically like a dedicated manager of volunteers that oversees all of them?
We have many volunteer managers. So
they're paid positions?
Yes. So they're called the child advocate managers. So they guide them, help them through the case, and help them stay pointed, a liaison between the attorney and them. But they all work as a team, and then they'll meet as a team so that they can know each other. I do think that they're working hard on making more ways that they can interact together and do things together. And we try all the different things that you can do, so that everybody knows everybody within that's volunteering. There's book clubs, there's all
right,
that.
so that they can like connect and be a community.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I promise, now I only have 3 more questions. So do you all survey? Let me try that again. Okay. Do you all send out like an annual survey to get feedback from your volunteers?
Yes, we've done this a couple ways. So there's always a survey that goes out when a case closes, so that they can specifically answer for what they what that child needed. Did they get everything? What was the best interest? Did that advocacy happen? All that. So, but it also asks what can be improved or do different, and there's not too much feedback on that. We do get a lot of feedback when they're leaving, though. They do an exit interview, and some of them are, a lot of times they move. A lot of times it has to do with that time commitment, a little more than they think. And again, I do think that the traveling to court and that court time and all that is a huge, because we're not losing any right now.
Yeah.
And they're seeing the kids, so that so we get the information that way. But we also did a survey just to see and we did it through SurveyMonkey, and got a bunch of feedback from them. Are they feeling supported from their volunteer? They all love, it's cool, the relationships they develop with their child advocate managers, that they love them, so they're doing their job of making that one-on-one contact and make the value, because they are valued.
Yeah.
And letting them know how valuable they are.
Oh, that's so great. See, that's beautiful feedback, making sure that that's happening. Oh, that's so great. That's so great. So great. Okay. All right. So now I have 2 questions, because that was my one. For you, professionally, personally, what is the thing that you are the most, professionally or personally, what is something, an accomplishment that you are most proud of, or something like a huge challenge that you had to overcome that you are most proud of?
That's a great question. I think that evolves because I think that our challenges kind of change as you navigate something. And I'll have to tell you that it's kind of a boring answer on this one. But when I came in, I knew nothing about the 990 and tax side of being an executive director and all that stuff. Nothing. I'm like, am I, can I sign that? What? I don't know, what they did. I'm like, it was so awful. The first year took forever to do. The second year, a little better. This year, I had everything ready, set, go. So our review in our 990 was my biggest accomplishment lately that I felt. But that's like something that I had to totally learn. But on the fun side, the developing of that student, formalizing the kid program and doing student speak up for kids, answering the crisis and starting the program of Foster Palm Beach so we can get some more foster homes. Those are all just huge. And the right people at the right time go into those positions. And it just makes it exciting. It's so all of it. I just am happy with so many different things, but the people that are implementing them, with this vision, keep everything going. It's the team. It's totally the team.
I love it. I love the energy and the support that you have. I love it. So okay, dang it. Sorry. It just made me want to ask you another question before the final question.
Okay.
So there's going to be a lot of people listening who are managers of volunteers, leader of volunteers, interns and things like that, who feel that they have a hard time getting buy-in from their executive directors for things that they want to do. As an executive director, what piece of advice can you give them that could help them if they need to either pass an idea or if they want to get better buy-in from the organization as a whole? But we all know it usually starts, it's a top-down thing type of situation. What kind of advice could you give to managers and volunteers to help them get that buy-in in their own organization?
So the buy-in on their idea, that, a lot, that's what you're asking, right? How do they get the buy-in on the idea? So the idea is, I love ideas. Okay. But the second part to that is how are you implementing that? So do you have the capacity? Do you have the people that can do it? And where are the people? And then, the time. So if somebody came to me with the idea, I'd be like, okay, how can I do that? Back of the head, make it happen. It might not be in the time frame, but if they came in with the idea and had a little bit of the plan of execution, absolutely. I'd be like, can we do that? And do you have the time to do it? Let's go. I'll give you some guidelines. Here we go. If so, I could do. I'll take that all day long. Send people my way with ideas and I'll take them, especially if they got the time to implement them. But if I have to do them and I have to figure out that path, it's going to take a lot longer. So maybe a little bit more than that, but definitely those ideas are heard and they turn out to be a lot of things that make the difference later. It's just a matter of when you can get to them or when your team can get to them.
Love it. Love it. Okay. All right, I'm not asking you any more questions. No, I'm asking my final question. Okay, so here's the book of questions. So I'm going to ask you, so tell me a number, tell me a number between 1 and 3,000, and I will ask you the question. And if you don't like it, we can change it because it's my show. We can do what we want. Okay, so go. What's the number?
2796.
Okay, 2796.
Something wrong.
Ooh, I like this one. What excuse do you tell yourself far too often?
Oh, so many of them, especially right now. Oh my gosh, I don't know how honest I want to go with this one.
Man.
So, oh my goodness. It comes up constantly, but it's time. So like they say, you make time for the important things, and you have to do what you have to do. So I think that time's a valid excuse, but I think that shuffling around and lack of wasting some of it, thinking about how am I going to do that? It would really be a little more beneficial. But that's also goes back to one of those questions you asked me earlier. And that's when, when that inner piece is a little messed up there, it does not, things don't they're not quite as productive. So I think that time is really the what I'm guiltiest of abusing and using well, both.
Wow. That is great. All right. So what excuse do I tell myself far too often? I like the time one.
How about, it doesn't really have that many calories.
Yeah. Yes. Because I have such a problem with like sweets. Like, and part of the problem is I like to buy them, but I don't necessarily eat them right away. It's kind of just like that. What's it called? The impulse buy, just the thrill to have been able to have bought it. And then I'll let it sit to the dismay of the people in the house, because then they all eat it. And then like 3 weeks later, when I'm ready for it, it's not there. But that's a whole nother thing. But I was at the point where I have to have dessert every single night. I have to have something for dessert. I eat and then I have to have something for dessert. And so that ties into one of my other excuses is like, I really don't have to work out every day. I'll be okay. And then I did something the other day with my leg, and I was like, what is that? Where did this come from? This was never here before. I was seeing things that shouldn't be there. I was feeling things in places that they shouldn't be felt. I was like, oh no. Because I was just like, if I just, eat the way I'm supposed to, I'll be fine. Well, that's great if I was really eating the way I was supposed to, because I wasn't. And then, so I, that everything that everybody's talking about, that COVID, like 15 or whatever. Yeah. So that was the excuse that I was telling myself far too often. And so now I have adjusted to make the time to go and work out. And even today, like I didn't do it today. And I was like, I'll be okay. I'll get it done. Didn't leave the house. I was like, dang it. I should have done it when I knew I had the time. And I was like, oh, I'll be. Yes. So yes, thank you for helping me answer my question. That whole, there's not really that many calories in it, which leads to, I don't really have to work out. All lies. Lies. Oh my goodness. So Coleen, this has been so great. If listeners want to reach out to you in terms of what they do, in terms of what you do, and maybe if they want to get involved in any way, I don't know if there's a virtual way to do this, but if people just want to reach out to you, ask you questions about what you do, and maybe, whatever, how can we get in touch with you?
What's the best, especially now, is the email. It's Coleen, Coleen, at speakupforkidspbc.org.
Okay, so there are a lot of virtual opportunities for people if they wanted to get involved, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
That's awesome. That is so great. And Speak Up for Kids, are they on social media? Like, can they be found on Instagram and all of that?
Yes, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and the website. Okay,
fabulous. And I will put all of those tags in the show notes so that when people are listening, it's there and they can contact you whenever. So Coleen, I want to thank you again so much for being our guest, and thank you all so much for tuning in for this episode of From the Suggestion Box, navigating feedback, the good, the bad, and the say, what? Yes, I love it. Not letting the good stuff go to your head and the bad stuff go to your heart. Thank you all so much, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.